What's going on, fellas? We got a cool one to look at here today. This is a air conditioning compressor powered waste oil burner. We're burning diesel fuel tonight just to do some testing on diesel. We have already seen this thing running on waste oil, and I am absolutely amazed at the performance. We're looking at about 20,000 watts there, and we're only using 219 watts of power. One of my subscribers mentioned that this thing will burn up pretty easy if we don't cool it somehow. So I've got a fan on it. We reach a top temperature of about 150 degrees, I think it was. So with the fan on it, it ain't too bad. Run it at about 20 psi's. I think that's like 1.3 bar. No perceptible airflow on the airflow gauge, but this thing's performing phenomenal. I can't believe how well it's working.
We all owe this to Bob Roscoe, by the way.
Definitely pretty awesome. I'm so glad that I tried this again. Now, I tried this for Bob about a year ago and failed, but I realized why. After a couple of years, I've learned a lot more, and it was just because I had my fuel position in the wrong place. You got to have the fuel elevated. So this project's definitely going to go pretty far here. We're going to be doing some things to this compressor, running it through some endurance tests to see how long we can run it before it burns up. And there's a lot to these pumps. We're also going to be seeing this pump run as an air motor. You can run these types of compressors as an air motor. I believe that may indicate that it's a scroll compressor, but I can't confirm that. Here I am turning it up a little bit. This is probably 60 to 80,000 watts right there when I had it turned up all the way. I did not get a flow rate at this setting. Just wanted to see what it could do for high outputs. Look at that rolling toroidal fireball inside of there. That is too cool. That's not a toroid, I'm sorry. It's just a vortex fireball that kind of keeps everything burning stable. It's an ignition zone there. That's our vortex. Look how that thing's just rolling inside of there. Very slow RPM though, believe it or not. Sometimes it's rolling so fast you can't see it. You can clearly see that thing spinning though. Isn't that beautiful? And that fireball spins in there and just comes back and reignites the flame that keeps it from flaming out. It's a flame holder essentially is all it is. And there's just something about the drag and burner. When you first crack these things open, they come with something called ester oil. Ester oil is a hygroscopic substance, which means it absorbs moisture from the air. It's very greedy for water. And what that does is produces a lubricant that's increasing in water content, which obviously isn't good for lubrication. So I'm going to go ahead and flush all the ester oil out of this thing. It has transmission fluid in it right now, just because it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and I don't have anything else to do as far as anything else to put in it. So I didn't want to run it on just the ester oil, so I did somewhat of a flush. But I think we have a smaller one over here, and I think what we need to do is cut it open and get a look at the fundamentals of these things on the inside. I'm hoping to see some type of oil sprayer that sprays the top of the motor. Some of them have a tube going up the center of the motor that's like a drill bit inside, and it pumps oil. These are all different depending on manufacturers, obviously, but for the most part, I think we're going to cut this one open tonight, take a look at what's in there. I need to flush this one out and get some good synthetic motor oil in there and get some type of oil level indicator. If we can keep it at 150 degrees, we're okay. I don't think we'll have any problems. These things are made to run in the 300 degree range. Typically, they're cooled by the refrigerant gas, not because the gas is cold, just the refrigerant gas itself is kind of used as a heat exchange. I think the oil might kind of flow through the system too. I'm not sure. I doubt it. But for the most part, this thing's working phenomenal. The individual who first requested this was Bob Roscoe, and I would have never even attempted it because I just always felt the flow rate was going to be way too low. And to some degree it is, because I would have never built a nozzle like this if it wasn't for the fact that I was striving to make this work. This nozzle has some extremely tight tolerances. We won't even be able to see the gap, the air gap probably. You can kind of see it. So it's you couldn't slide a human hair in between that oil pan and that annular air shroud. It's very thin. And we were getting up to about 25 psi's. Now when you hold your hand up to it, it's a fairly decent airflow. I'm kind of surprised. These rotaries pump way more air than these units right here. I highly doubt you would be able to get one of these to perform the same way. This is my vacuum pump. So I know from experience the amount of air it puts out is probably a tenth of what these things here put out. And I figured that out with a bubble test. Just taking an air hose, dipping it in the water, and looking at the bubbles. Another YouTuber by the name of Tesla88 or something, I can't remember. He's a famous YouTuber now, but at the time when he sent me the video, he was not. And he took one of these apart and showed us why they rattle with zero pressure, and showed us why they require back pressure to work. I'm going to try to find Tesla's real channel name. He's a huge channel. The guy's a freaking genius. He's an engineer. But he showed us why these need a little bit of back pressure before they'll even start pressuring up. They just won't do it because the air vane needs back pressure on the needle to hit up against the sealing surface. This is not a scroll rotor, I don't think. However, it might be. And I say that because you can hook an air compressor up to the intake of this and it will run at electric motor speeds. The RPMs are so high that it's almost as if it's just blowing air from compressing it. It's pretty crazy. I would try it right now for you, but the problem is it sprays the oil out of the unit. We are going to be seeing that happen though. Matter of fact, I should just show you that now because we need to get the oil out of this thing anyway. She's got a rod knocking, but it is spinning. See the oil spraying out when you do that. You hear that thing starting up? Uh-oh, locked in place. It's at TDC or something, some unstartable position. So, you can get very much out of there. This thing, you can put oil in these, by the way. When you go to refill it, the suction line allows you to suck oil directly into the line. Then you just stop when you start seeing it spray out the discharge. Just go slow so you don't crash the cylinder. But other than that, I'm calling it a night on that one. Definitely going to be seeing a lot more of this project. There's something here for sure. We all know how annoying it is running an air compressor just to run a forge. You don't want to hear a jet engine either. This thing is so quiet. We're under 90 decibels, which is phenomenal. I think it was in the 84 decibel range, which isn't too bad. And it's way better than 105 decibels. So, this is a pretty cool little project. I'm excited about it. I'm gonna probably not gonna see this one cut open. This will be on a different video. I'm gonna start throwing this together, show you guys what I got. Whoa. Falling apart. So, right on to Bob Roscoe for lighting a fire under my ass about this idea. I would have never thought it possible. I tried it for you in that video about a year ago, and for whatever reason, a commenter led me back to that video and I decided to watch a couple minutes of it because I wanted to see why it didn't work one more time. And I noticed my oil reservoir was 2 feet below the nozzle. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, like I'm doing a siphon competition or something. I don't know what that was all about, but 2 feet ahead on a siphon nozzle is ridiculous. If anything, you want to be elevated 2 foot above the fuel nozzle. So that's the problem. That's why here I kind of got this lifted up just a little bit. With diesel fuel, it doesn't matter because the viscosity is so low. But with waste oil, you must adhere to these principles. You have to have the fuel reservoir elevated. Sometimes up to 4 and 5 feet is good. For instance, I'll have an oil burner on the ground and I'll have my container sitting on top of this to get that much head on there. So just something to recognize if you're having trouble with your oil burner. It may just be as simple as you don't have the fuel elevated enough. One way to know, if you don't have oil dripping out of the front of one of these things when you're trying to light it, you don't have enough fuel. That is an immediate telltale sign. There's a little bit of puddle of diesel right there. But typically, that's one of the master rules, that if during ignition you're not seeing any fuel drip out, just a couple of drops. It's got to be at least a couple of drops, nothing more. But I'm babbling at this point. Shutting up.